Video opens with glamorous, slow-motion shots of a pristine 1950s Cadillac Eldorado, sunlight glinting off the chrome and tail fins. Upbeat, optimistic 1950s-style music plays. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a trip back in time, not just to look at a car, but to understand a dream. We're diving deep into the chrome-plated, V8-powered heart of the 1950s to explore the story of a true American icon, the Cadillac Eldorado. Imagine this. World War II is over. America is booming. There's a feeling of boundless optimism in the air, a belief that anything is possible. The economy is soaring, suburbs are sprawling, and the open road is calling. In this era of unprecedented prosperity, what did success look like? For many, it wasn't just a big house or a fancy suit. It was the car you parked in the driveway. And if you had truly made it, that car was a Cadillac. But Cadillac wanted to create something even more special. Not just a luxury car, but the asterisk luxury car. A statement on wheels. A vehicle that didn't just transport you, but announced your arrival. This was the vision that gave birth to the Eldorado. The name itself, Eldorado, comes from the Spanish words for the Gilded One, referring to a mythical lost city of gold. And honestly, could there have been a more perfect name? This car was designed to be the four-wheeled embodiment of that legend. It was a rolling treasure, a symbol of having found your personal city of gold in the land of opportunity. In 1953, the first Eldorado rolled off the production line as part of General Motors' Motorama Dream Cars. It was a limited edition, ultra-exclusive convertible that was longer, lower, and wider than anything else on the road. It featured a revolutionary panoramic wraparound windshield, a concept straight out of a sci-fi movie at the time. It had every luxury feature imaginable, from power windows to a signal-seeking radio. Throughout the 1950s, Cadillac's designers, led by the legendary Harley Earl, continued to push the boundaries with the Eldorado. They saw it as their canvas, a place to experiment with the most daring and futuristic ideas. This is where the iconic tailfin truly took flight. What started as a subtle design cue inspired by the P-38 Lightning fighter plane grew year after year, becoming more pronounced, more dramatic, more audacious. The tailfins weren't just for show, though. They represented a fusion of technology and art, a nod to the jet age and the space race. They symbolized speed, power, and a forward-looking spirit. Driving an Eldorado was like piloting your own personal land-based rocket ship. The acres of chrome, the dazzling Dagmar bumpers, the rich, jewel-toned paint colors, every single detail was meticulously crafted to create a sense of occasion, to make every drive feel like a red carpet event. The Eldorado wasn't just about symbolizing success. It was about embodying freedom. In post-war America, the automobile was the ultimate tool of personal liberty. The interstate highway system was beginning to connect the country like never before, and the Eldorado was the perfect vehicle for exploring it. Picture cruising down Route 66 in a '57 Eldorado Biarritz convertible. Top down, wind in your hair, the powerful V8 engine humming a symphony of effortless power. It was a feeling of pure, unadulterated freedom. It was the promise of the open road, the ability to go anywhere, do anything. This car captured the essence of American optimism. It was big, it was bold, it was unapologetically extravagant. It thumbed its nose at subtlety and practicality. The Eldorado wasn't about getting from point A to point B. It was about the journey. It was about making a statement that you had not only achieved success, but were enjoying every single moment of it. As the decade progressed, the Eldorado became even more flamboyant, culminating in the legendary 1959 model. This car is the undisputed king of tailfins. Those twin, rocket-like fins, complete with dual bullet taillights, are perhaps the most famous design feature of the entire decade. It was the absolute peak of 1950s automotive excess, a car so over the top that it could only have been born in that specific moment in time. Some critics called it gaudy, but its fans saw it as the ultimate expression of American confidence and style. More than just steel, glass, and chrome, the Cadillac Eldorado of the 1950s was a cultural touchstone. It reflected a nation's aspirations, its dreams of a better, brighter, and more glamorous future. It was a rolling piece of art, a symbol of technological prowess, and a beacon of personal achievement. Cadillac didn't just build a car. They built a legend. They crafted a tangible piece of the American dream that you could see, touch, and drive. The story of the Eldorado is far from over, and its influence would be felt for decades to come. But its genesis in the 1950s remains a fascinating chapter in automotive history, a perfect reflection of a unique and unrepeatable era. It was a time when dreams were big, cars were bigger, and the future seemed as wide and inviting as the open road. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey back to the golden age of American luxury. What do you think of the 1950s Eldorado? Is it a masterpiece or just too much? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into automotive history. Until next time, drive safe and dream big. Welcome back, everyone, to our deep dive into the legacy of the Cadillac Eldorado. If you missed our first chapter, be sure to check it out. Today, we're turning the clock back to a year of glamour, optimism, and groundbreaking design. 1953. This is where the legend truly begins. Imagine the post-war American landscape. The economy was booming, the highways were expanding, and the public was hungry for something new, something that screamed success. General Motors, and especially its luxury division, Cadillac, was listening intently. They weren't just aiming to build another car. They were aiming to build a monument on wheels. In 1952, GM unveiled a series of dream cars at its Motorama auto shows. These weren't just concepts. They were statements of intent. For Cadillac, their showstopper was a stunning convertible prototype named Eldorado, Spanish for the Gilded One. The name itself evoked images of golden cities and unattainable treasures. The public's reaction was electric. They didn't just like it. They had to have it. So, for the 1953 model year, Cadillac did something bold. They took that dream and put it on the production line. The result was the very first Cadillac Eldorado, and it was unlike anything America had ever seen. This wasn't just a modified Series 62 convertible, which was already a beautiful car. No, the Eldorado was a masterpiece of custom coachwork, a special in every sense of the word. Let's talk about that design because it was truly revolutionary. The most striking feature was its panoramic wraparound windshield. Today, we take this for granted, but in 1953, it was a piece of automotive art, offering an unparalleled cinematic view of the road. It made the driver and passengers feel like they were starring in their own Hollywood movie. Then there was the bodywork. The Eldorado had a distinctive drip molding that swept gracefully from the windshield all the way back, emphasizing its long, low silhouette. And the doors featured a dramatic, stylish dip, a signature styling cue known as the Darren dip, named after the famed designer Howard Dutch Darren. This wasn't just a functional element. It was a line of beauty that set the Eldorado apart from every other car on the road. To keep that sleek profile, the convertible top was designed to disappear completely beneath a hard metal tonneau cover when folded down. This created a perfectly smooth, uninterrupted line from the back of the front seat to the tail fins. It was the epitome of clean, elegant design. And under the hood? Pure Cadillac power. It housed a 331 cubic inch V8 engine, producing a formidable 210 horsepower. It was smooth, powerful, and delivered the kind of effortless performance expected from a top-tier luxury car. Driving the Eldorado wasn't about raw, aggressive speed. It was about cruising with authority and grace. But exclusivity was the Eldorado's true currency. This was not a car for the masses. In 1953, Cadillac produced only 532 of these beauties. Each one was essentially a semi-custom build, and they came loaded with every available option as standard. Power steering, power brakes, a signal-seeking radio, automatic window lifts. If it was a luxury feature, the Eldorado had it. This level of craftsmanship and exclusivity came with a price tag to match. This price wasn't just about the features. It was about the statement. Owning a 1953 Eldorado meant you had truly arrived. It was a symbol of ultimate success, a rolling testament to prestige. Its first buyers were a who's who of society, celebrities, business tycoons, and even President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who famously rode in one during his inaugural parade. It instantly became the car of the elite. The first Eldorado was offered in only 4 exclusive colors: Aztec Red, Alpine White, Azure Blue, and a special order black. Each one was paired with a luxurious leather interior, completing the bespoke feel of the car. It was a personal luxury statement, long before the term was even coined. Looking back, the 1953 Eldorado did more than just launch a nameplate. It established a new benchmark for American luxury. It proved that there was a market for a car that was unapologetically opulent, beautifully designed, and incredibly exclusive. It was a halo car, a car that cast a golden glow over the entire Cadillac brand, cementing its reputation as the standard of the world. The financial success of this limited run wasn't the main goal for GM. The real victory was the buzz, the prestige, the sheer desire it created. The 1953 Eldorado was a marketing masterstroke, a legend born fully formed. It set the stage for decades of innovation and style, creating a dynasty that would define American automotive luxury for generations. It wasn't just a car, it was the birth of an icon. That's the story of the very first Eldorado, a true legend from 1953. What a machine! Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this chapter of the Eldorado story, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss Chapter 3. We've got so much more to cover. See you in the next one. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're firing up our time machine and setting the dial to the fabulous 1950s. If you thought cars were just about getting from A to B, this decade is here to prove you wrong. This was the era of chrome, confidence, and of course, those magnificent tail fins. Let's dive into the golden age of American automotive design. The post-war boom wasn't just about economic prosperity. It was an explosion of optimism, and you could see it right there on the streets. The cars of the 1950s were more than just transportation. They were rolling sculptures, symbols of a nation looking towards a bright, boundless future. And what better way to express that forward momentum than by borrowing from the fastest things man had ever built? That's right, we're talking about the jet age. The sleek, powerful designs of fighter jets and rockets captured the public's imagination, and automotive designers were quick to translate that excitement into their creations. Hood ornaments became jet-inspired masterpieces. Grills looked like engine intakes, and dashboard instruments resembled aircraft cockpits. But nothing, and I mean nothing, screamed jet age louder than the tail fin. It all arguably started with Harley Earl, the legendary head of design at General Motors. Inspired by the twin tails of the P-38 Lightning fighter plane, he introduced modest fins on the 1948 Cadillac. At first, they were subtle, elegant little kicks at the end of the rear fenders. But what started as a whisper soon became a roar. Throughout the 50s, the fin race was on. Each year, every major American automaker tried to outdo the others with fins that were taller, sharper, and more extravagant. They went from being simple styling cues to elaborate, soaring structures that defined the entire silhouette of the car. It was a visual competition, a battle for who could best capture the spirit of the space race right there in the dealership showroom. Think of the 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air. Its fins were crisp, clean, and perfectly integrated into the body, a masterclass in balanced design. Then there was Chrysler's Forward Look, designed by Virgil Exner. Cars like the 1957 Plymouth Fury had towering, knife-edged fins that made the car look like it was doing 100 miles an hour even when it was parked. These weren't just cars, they were statements. They radiated power and a sense of daring adventure. But fins weren't the only stars of the show. Let's talk about chrome. Oh, the glorious, gleaming chrome, it was everywhere. Grills became massive, intricate works of art, dripping with chrome. Bumpers, known as Dagmar bumpers on some models, were bold, imposing, and unapologetically shiny. Chrome was used for side spears that stretched the length of the car, for headlight bezels, window trim, and wheel covers. If a part could be chromed, this wasn't just decoration. It was jewelry for the car. The chrome reflected the neon lights of downtown boulevards and the bright sun of suburban driveways. It added a sense of weight, quality, and undeniable luxury. It was the automotive equivalent of putting on your finest suit. In an era of prosperity, a little bit of bling wasn't just acceptable, it was expected. A car without a healthy dose of chrome simply looked unfinished. And the colors. Forget the 50 shades of gray we see today. The 1950s color palette was a dream. Two-tone and even three-tone paint jobs were all the rage. Imagine a car in seafoam green and India ivory, or tropical turquoise and white. These weren't just paint jobs. They were expressions of joy and personality. You could get your car to match your kitchen appliances. It was all part of the fun, the flamboyance that defined the decade. Inside, the spectacle continued. Bench seats were wide enough for the whole family, upholstered in vibrant fabrics and vinyls. Dashboards were works of art in themselves, with gleaming chrome controls, stylish typography on the gauges, and push-button transmissions that felt like something out of a sci-fi movie. Everything was designed to delight the senses and make driving an event. Of course, the peak of this trend, the absolute summit of Tailfin Mountain, has to be the 1959 Cadillac. The fins on this car are legendary. They were the tallest ever put on a standard production car, complete with twin bullet-style tail lights in each fin. It was the ultimate expression of 50s excess and optimism. It was bold, it was audacious, and it was beautiful in its own spectacular way. The '59 Cadillac wasn't just a car. It was a monument to the decade, but like all great parties, this one had to end. As the 1950s gave way to the 1960s, tastes began to change. The jet-age optimism was replaced by a desire for more subdued, sophisticated, and European styling. Fins began to shrink, and the amount of chrome was dialed back. The era of flamboyance was drawing to a close, replaced by the clean, muscular lines of the coming muscle car era. Still, the legacy of the 1950s endures. These cars are more than just collector's items, they are time capsules. They represent a unique moment in history when America was feeling on top of the world, and its dreams were cast in steel and chrome. They remind us of a time when designers weren't afraid to be bold, to have fun, and to reach for the sky quite literally with their fins. Looking at these magnificent machines today, you can't help but smile. They are a testament to the power of design to capture and reflect the spirit of an age. The soaring fins and gleaming chrome of the 1950s will forever be a high-water mark of automotive artistry and a celebration of pure, unadulterated optimism. Thank you so much for joining me on this trip back to the fabulous 50s. What's your favorite car from this era? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. See you on the next one. Welcome back, everyone, to Chapter 4 of our deep dive into the legendary Cadillac Eldorado. We've talked about its stunning design and its cultural impact, but now it's time to look under the hood and behind the dashboard. This chapter is all about the technological frontier, because the Eldorado wasn't just a pretty face. It was a rolling showcase of the future. From its earliest days, Cadillac wasn't just competing with other luxury cars, it was competing with tomorrow. The brand's motto was standard of the world, and they took that mission very, very seriously. The Eldorado became the flagship vessel for this ambition, the car where Cadillac's wildest engineering dreams became reality. It was where you'd find features that would take other automakers years, sometimes even decades, to catch up with. Let's start with one of the most fundamental changes in the driving experience: the transmission. In an era where driving often involved a constant dance with the clutch pedal and a manual gearshift, Cadillac was at the forefront of a revolution. The introduction of the hydromatic automatic transmission was a game-changer. Imagine, for the first time, simply putting the car in drive and letting it do the work. For Eldorado owners, this wasn't a futuristic fantasy. It was their daily reality. The smoothness, the ease, the sheer reduction in driver effort, it completely redefined what it meant to drive a luxury car. It transformed the chore of navigating city traffic into a serene, effortless glide. This single innovation made the Eldorado accessible and enjoyable for a much wider audience, cementing its status as the ultimate in user-friendly luxury. But Cadillac didn't stop at the transmission. The engineers were obsessed with a concept we now take for granted: effortless control. And that brings us to the magic of power windows. It might seem simple today, but picture this. It's the 1950s. To get some fresh air, you're cranking a stiff mechanical handle. Now, in the Eldorado, you just press a button. A sleek chrome button. And like magic, the heavy glass window glides down silently into the door. It was pure theater. It was a statement. It told your passengers, without you saying a word, that you were in a vehicle from the future. This wasn't just a convenience. It was an experience, adding to the sense of occasion every time you got behind the wheel. The Eldorado was packed with these little moments of delight, making the owner feel completely in command of their environment. And then there was the ride itself. How do you make a heavy, full-size car feel like it's floating on a cloud? The answer for Cadillac was air suspension. This was truly advanced, space-age technology for its time. Instead of traditional steel springs, the Eldorado utilized a system of rubber air domes, automatically adjusting to the road's imperfections and the vehicle's load. The result was an impossibly smooth, level ride. regardless of the terrain. Bumps, potholes, and uneven surfaces that would jolt lesser cars were simply absorbed, leaving the occupants undisturbed in their plush cabin. The car seemed to hover over the road, creating an unparalleled sensation of serene isolation from the harshness of the outside world. It was the ultimate expression of comfort, a promise that the journey in an Eldorado would be just as luxurious as the destination. These weren't just standalone gadgets either. They worked together to create a cohesive ecosystem of comfort and control. Automatic transmission made driving smoother, power accessories made interacting with the car easier, and air suspension made the ride quieter and more comfortable. It all contributed to a single goal: to isolate the driver and passengers in a bubble of unprecedented luxury. You weren't just driving a car. You were piloting a personal luxury liner. The level of sound-deadening insulation, the quality of the materials, the ergonomic placement of every switch and dial, it was all part of this grand vision. The Eldorado was designed to be a sanctuary, a quiet, comfortable space where the stresses of the world melted away the moment you closed the heavy, solid door. Think about the cumulative effect of these innovations. For the first time, a car was actively working to reduce the driver's workload. It was anticipating your needs. Need to merge onto a highway? The powerful V8 engine and smooth automatic transmission made it effortless. A sudden rain shower? A touch of a button sealed the cabin. A long road trip? The air suspension and plush seats ensured you arrived feeling refreshed, not fatigued. The Eldorado was more than a machine. It was becoming a partner, an assistant that made every journey a pleasure. This philosophy of proactive, driver-centric technology is something automakers are still chasing today with advanced driver assistance systems. But Cadillac was laying the groundwork for it more than half a century ago. This commitment to technological leadership set the Eldorado apart from its European rivals. While many European luxury cars of the era focused purely on performance and Spartan, driver-focused cockpits, Cadillac chose a different path. They proved that cutting-edge technology and ultimate comfort could go hand in hand. The Eldorado wasn't just fast and beautiful, it was intelligent. It was a pioneer that introduced millions of people to features that would eventually become standard across the entire automotive industry. From automatic climate control systems that maintained a perfect temperature to automatic headlight dimmers, the Eldorado was a rolling laboratory of innovation. So, when we look back at the Eldorado, it's crucial to remember this pioneering spirit. It wasn't just a style icon. It was a technological powerhouse that pushed the boundaries of what was possible in an automobile. It made driving easier, more comfortable, and infinitely more magical. The legacy of the Eldorado's technological frontier isn't just in classic car museums. You can feel it every time you use a power window, enjoy an automatic transmission, or appreciate a smooth, well-damped ride in a modern car. The Eldorado didn't just set the standard of the world for its time. It helped define the standard for the future. Thank you so much for joining me for this chapter. The story of the Eldorado is far from over, and in our next episode, we'll explore its evolution through some of the most turbulent and exciting decades in automotive history. You won't want to miss it. If you're enjoying this series, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and ringing the bell so you get notified when the next chapter drops. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, drive safe and stay curious. Video opens with glamorous vintage footage of Hollywood in the 1950s and 60s, transitioning to shots of classic Cadillac Eldorados cruising down Sunset Boulevard. Welcome back, everyone. In this chapter, we're diving into the glitz, the glamour, and the chrome of Hollywood's golden age. We're talking about the one car that wasn't just a mode of transport, but a co-star on the silver screen and in the lives of the biggest names in entertainment, the Cadillac Eldorado. Think about it. What does a star drive? They drive a statement. And for decades, that statement was spelled E-L-D-O-R-A-D-O. This wasn't just a car. It was a rolling testament to making it big. It was the physical embodiment of the American dream, parked right in your driveway. Let's start with the king himself, Elvis Presley. Elvis was a legendary car enthusiast, and his love for Cadillacs is the stuff of legend. He owned a whole fleet of them. But his pink 1955 Eldorado is arguably one of the most famous cars in the world. Originally, it was a standard blue, but after a minor accident, Elvis had it repainted in a custom shade that became known as Elvis Rose. That car wasn't just for him. He famously gifted it to his mother, Gladys. It became a symbol of his love for his family and his larger-than-life persona. When you saw that pink fin slicing through the streets of Memphis, you knew royalty was passing by, but Elvis wasn't alone. The list of Eldorado owners reads like a who's who of Hollywood royalty. Let's talk about Old Blue Eyes Frank Sinatra. A man known for his impeccable style and commanding presence. Sinatra owned several Eldorados throughout his life. For him, the car mirrored his own image, sophisticated, powerful, and undeniably cool. Imagine Sinatra, stepping out of a sleek black Eldorado broom, fedora tilted just so, heading into the Capitol Records building. The car was an extension of his personality, a perfect match for his suave, confident swagger. It was the ultimate accessory for the leader of the Rat Pack, and the leading ladies loved them too. Think of bombshells like Marilyn Monroe or Jane Mansfield. The Eldorado's extravagant styling, its sheer size and opulence, perfectly complemented their glamorous public images. Posing next to a long, low Eldorado with those iconic tail fins, they looked like goddesses of the modern age. The car amplified their star power, making them seem even more untouchable, more dazzling. It was a prop in the grand movie of their lives. So why the Eldorado? What made it so special? It was all about aspiration. In the 1950s and 60s, America was booming with post-war optimism. The Eldorado captured that spirit perfectly. It was unapologetically big, bold, and beautiful. Those tail fins, inspired by fighter jets, screamed progress and power. The acres of chrome gleamed under the California sun, reflecting the bright future everyone was chasing. And the features. Power, everything: windows, seats, steering. Air conditioning, a novelty at the time. The ride was famously smooth, like floating on a cloud. Driving an Eldorado wasn't just about getting from A to B. It was an event. It was about being seen, about arriving in a manner that left no doubt you were someone important. It was a status symbol you could drive. Hollywood directors quickly caught on. The Eldorado became a star in its own right, appearing in countless films and television shows. It was the go-to vehicle to signify wealth, success, or even a touch of danger. If a character was a high roller, a movie mogul, or a gangster with style, chances are they were behind the wheel of an Eldorado. It was cinematic shorthand for "this person has made it." From dramatic arrivals in film noir classics to cruising scenes in rock and roll movies, the Eldorado was always ready for its close-up. This symbiotic relationship between Cadillac and Hollywood was marketing genius. Every time a star was photographed in their Eldorado, it was a priceless endorsement. It told the public, this is what success looks like. This is what you should aspire to. People didn't just want the car. They wanted the lifestyle that came with it. They wanted to feel like a star, even if it was just for the length of their commute. The Eldorado sold a dream, and America was buying. As we moved through the decades, the Eldorado continued to evolve, just like Hollywood itself. The flashy fins of the 50s gave way to the more restrained, yet equally massive, designs of the 60s and 70s. The personal luxury coupe era saw the Eldorado become even more exclusive, a private chariot for the rich and famous. Think of the 1967 Eldorado, with its sharp, creased lines and front-wheel drive. It was a bold, futuristic statement that still commanded attention wherever it went. It remained the car of choice for entertainers, musicians, and industry executives who appreciated its blend of modern design and classic Cadillac luxury. Even as foreign luxury brands started gaining popularity, the Eldorado held its own. It had a uniquely American character that couldn't be replicated. It was a symbol of homegrown success, a piece of Americana that represented a specific time and a specific feeling. It was the car for those who weren't afraid to be a little flashy, a little loud, and a lot successful. From the bright lights of Las Vegas with the Rat Pack to the gates of Graceland, the Eldorado was there, a silent but powerful character in the story of 20th century fame. It was more than just metal, rubber, and glass. It was a rolling piece of art, a cultural icon, and for a golden period in history, it was unequivocally Hollywood's favorite ride. Thank you so much for joining me on this trip down memory lane. I hope you enjoyed this look at the legendary connection between the Eldorado and the stars. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more chapters in our automotive journey. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Until then, drive safe and dream big. Welcome back to our deep dive into the legend of the Cadillac Eldorado. In this chapter, we're popping the hood to explore the very heart of this automotive icon, the engines. The Eldorado wasn't just a pretty face. It was a titan of the road, and that reputation was forged in fire, iron, and good old American horsepower. From its earliest days, the Eldorado was synonymous with V8 power. But these weren't just any V8 South. They were Cadillac V8 South engines designed to deliver a torrent of smooth, seemingly endless power, all while maintaining a level of refinement that was second to none. Think of it as a heavyweight boxer in a tuxedo. It had the muscle to knock you out, but it did so with unparalleled grace. Let's rewind to the 1950s. The early Eldorados were equipped with groundbreaking overhead valve V8 South. In 1953, the engine displaced 331 cubic inches and produced a very respectable 210 horsepower. It was a statement. While other cars were still figuring things out, Cadillac was delivering effortless performance. This was the engine that set the standard, proving that luxury and high performance could coexist beautifully. Driving one was an experience. You'd press the accelerator, and instead of a harsh roar, you'd feel a majestic surge, a wave of torque that pushed you back into the plush leather seats. It was the feeling of command, of having immense power at your beck and call. As we moved into the late 50s and early 60s, the displacement and horsepower wars were in full swing across Detroit. Cadillac, of course, was a key player. The engines grew 365 cubic inches, then 390, horsepower figures climbed past 300, then 325, then 345, but Cadillac's approach was different. While muscle cars were all about raw, loud, and sometimes brutish power, the Eldorado's V8 South were engineered for what engineers called high-speed touring. The power was there, but it was delivered with a silken smoothness that made cross-country journeys feel like a glide. You could cruise at 80 miles per hour all day long, and the engine would just be loafing along, barely breaking a sweat. It was the sound of confidence, a deep, reassuring burble that let you know there was always more in reserve. The real giant, the engine that truly defined the Eldorado's powerful persona for a generation, arrived in 1968. I'm talking about the legendary 472 cubic inch V8. At the time of its introduction, it was the largest displacement passenger car engine in the world. It produced a stout 375 horsepower and an earth-moving 525 pound-feet of torque. These numbers are massive, even by today's standards. What did that mean on the road? It meant that this 2.5-ton personal luxury coupe could move with an authority that was simply shocking. It was effortless. Merging onto a highway, passing slower traffic, climbing a steep grade, the 472 handled it all without a hint of strain. It was the embodiment of American excess and engineering prowess, a monument to the idea that there's no replacement for displacement. But Cadillac wasn't done yet. In 1970, they did the unthinkable. They made the big V8 even bigger. The engine was stroked to a colossal 500 cubic inches. That's 8.2 liters for our metric friends. 8.2 liters. In its initial form, the 500 V8 produced a staggering 400 horsepower and 550 pound-feet of torque. This remains, to this day, one of the largest V8 engines ever factory-installed in a passenger car. It was the absolute pinnacle of the horsepower era. Driving a 500-equipped Eldorado was an experience unlike any other. The sheer, unstoppable force was intoxicating. It wasn't a high-revving screamer, it was a torque monster. You'd just lean on the throttle, and the car would surge forward on a tidal wave of power. It didn't matter how fast you were going. There was always more. It was the ultimate expression of the bigger is better philosophy, a true symbol of American industrial might. Of course, the party couldn't last forever. The 1970s brought the oil crisis and a new focus on emissions and fuel economy. Like all automakers, Cadillac had to adapt. Compression ratios were lowered, and horsepower ratings began to fall. The mighty 500 V8, which once boasted 400 horsepower, was eventually rated at a much more modest 190 horsepower by its final year in 1976. But here's the interesting part. Even in its detuned state, the engine's massive displacement meant it still produced a huge amount of torque at low RPMs. So, while the thrilling high-end rush was gone, the car still felt powerful and effortless in everyday driving. It maintained that characteristic Cadillac feeling of quiet, confident authority. The late 70s and 80s were a period of dramatic change. The Eldorado downsized, and so did its engines. We saw the introduction of a diesel V8, which, while well-intentioned for fuel economy, is a chapter many Cadillac enthusiasts prefer to forget due to reliability issues. Then came the infamous V864. This was a technologically ambitious engine with cylinder deactivation designed to save fuel by shutting down cylinders when not needed. It was a brilliant idea, way ahead of its time. Unfortunately, the computer technology of the era just wasn't up to the task, and the system was often clunky and unreliable. It was a bold attempt at innovation, but a commercial failure that tarnished Cadillac's reputation for a time. However, Cadillac's engineering spirit never died. The brand rebounded with the introduction of the 4.1-liter HT series of V8 South. From the pioneering overhead valve designs of the 50s, to the colossal 500 cubic inch giant of the 70s, and finally to the high-tech North Star of the 90s, the V8 engine was always central to the Eldorado's identity. It was more than just a motor. It was the source of the car's character, its swagger, and its soul. The power beneath the hood was the promise that this beautiful machine had the muscle to back up its stunning looks. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the powerful heart of the Cadillac Eldorado. It's been an incredible ride. If you've enjoyed this series, please hit that like button, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing so you don't miss our future explorations into automotive history. We'll see you in the next video. Welcome back to our journey through the history of the legendary Cadillac Eldorado. We've just navigated the flamboyant 50s, a decade of chrome dreams and towering tail fins. Now we cruise into a new era, the 1960s. This is Chapter 7, Elegance Refined. As the calendar turned to 1960, a subtle but significant shift was happening in American automotive design. The space race exuberance of the late 50s, which gave us the Eldorado's most extravagant fins, was beginning to mature. America was changing, and so was its premier luxury car. The fins began to shrink, but the luxury only deepened. The 1960 Eldorado, while still a sibling to the iconic 59, presented a cleaner, more restrained look. The fins were lower, less pointed, and the bullet-style taillights were replaced with a sleek, integrated design. It was as if the car had taken a deep breath, shed its teenage exuberance, and was now stepping into adulthood with a newfound confidence. Under the hood, however, the power was anything but restrained. The 390 cubic inch V8 engine was standard, often paired with 3 two-barrel carburetors in the Biarritz models, pumping out a formidable 345 horsepower. This wasn't just about cruising. It was about effortless commanding power. Inside, the opulence continued. Leather interiors, power everything, and a sense of bespoke craftsmanship were the hallmarks. Cadillac was solidifying the Eldorado's position not just as a car, but as a statement of personal achievement and discerning taste. By 1961, the transformation was even more pronounced. A major redesign brought a completely new lower body. Look closely at the side profile. You'll notice a crisp, straight character line running from front to back, giving the car a longer, more grounded appearance. And at the rear, the fins evolved into skegs, a term borrowed from naval architecture, which were essentially lower, blade-like extensions. This design was a nod to the past while clearly pointing towards the future. It was a brilliant move, maintaining a distinctive Cadillac identity while embracing the clean, modern aesthetic that would define the early 60s. The Biarritz convertible remained the pinnacle of open-air motoring, a 2.5-ton sculpture of steel and style that turned every drive into a grand procession. The 1962 model year saw further refinement. The grille became flatter and more intricate, and the skegs at the rear were slightly toned down. Cadillac was perfecting its new design language, focusing on subtle details that whispered luxury rather than shouting it. This was the era of madmen, of cool, confident style, and the Eldorado was the perfect automotive co-star. It was the car you'd see parked outside a swanky Manhattan restaurant or cruising down a sun-drenched California highway. It represented the maturing American dream, a dream that was less about flash and more about substance and quality. Then came 1963, a year that brought another significant restyling. The body became even crisper, with sharper fender lines that gave it a more formal, almost architectural quality. You can really see the standard of the world philosophy at play here. The design was clean, dignified, and utterly self-assured. A new, more powerful 390 V8 was introduced, ensuring that the Eldorado's performance matched its impeccable style. The Biarritz convertible, with its impossibly long rear deck and elegant proportions, was a masterpiece of mid-century design. It was a car for presidents, movie stars, and anyone who had truly arrived. 1964 was largely a year of refinement on the 63 body, but it was a crucial one. It was the final year for this generation of rear-wheel drive convertibles that traced their lineage back to the original show car. The fins were now fully integrated into the rear fenders, almost disappearing completely. The design had come full circle from the subtle hints of 1953 to the towering peaks of 1959 and now back to a state of sublime, understated elegance. This 1964 Eldorado Biarritz stands as a bookend to an era, a final, perfect expression of the classic post-war luxury convertible before everything changed again. And change it did. In 1965, the Eldorado was repositioned. It was no longer a standalone, uniquely styled convertible. Instead, it became a sub-series of the DeVille, known as the Fleetwood Eldorado. While still incredibly luxurious, it now shared its body with the DeVille convertible. This was a strategic move by Cadillac, but for many purists, it marked the end of an era. The 65 and 66 Fleetwood Eldorados were beautiful, powerful cars in their own right, featuring the new 429 cubic inch V8 engine. They carried the torch of Cadillac luxury with pride, but the unique, bespoke character of the earlier Eldorados was momentarily paused. Little did anyone know, Cadillac was gathering its strength for a revolution. Because in 1967, the Eldorado nameplate was reborn in the most dramatic way imaginable. Cadillac unleashed a car that shocked the world and redefined the personal luxury coupe forever, the front-wheel drive Eldorado. This was a seismic shift. A massive V8-powered Cadillac pulling itself along with its front wheels. It was unheard of. But the result was breathtaking. The 67 Eldorado was a design masterpiece. Penned under the direction of the legendary Bill Mitchell, it was all sharp angles, knife-edged fenders, and a long-hood short-deck proportion that was pure automotive theater. The hidden headlights and clean, unadorned body sides gave it a futuristic, almost concept car look. It was a radical departure from everything that came before it, yet it was unmistakably a Cadillac, bold, powerful, and dripping with presence. This front-wheel drive layout wasn't just a gimmick. It allowed for a completely flat interior floor, enhancing passenger space and comfort. It also gave the car incredible stability and traction, making this giant coupe surprisingly nimble and secure on the road, regardless of the weather. It was powered by the 429 V8, providing effortless torque to the front wheels through a newly designed turbo-hydromatic transmission and chain drive system. The late 60s saw this new Eldorado cement its status as an icon. For 1968, it received the even larger 472 cubic inch V8, the largest production V8 in the world at the time. By 1970, that engine would grow to a colossal 500 cubic inches. The Eldorado wasn't just a style leader. It was the king of torque. It was the ultimate expression of American automotive confidence at the close of the decade. So the 1960s was a decade of two distinct acts for the Eldorado. It began with the refinement and eventual conclusion of the classic rear-wheel drive, finned convertible, a car that perfected post-war opulence. It ended with the birth of a revolutionary front-wheel drive icon, a car that would set the template for personal luxury for decades to come. From the elegant Biarritz to the audacious 67 Coupe, the Eldorado navigated the swinging 60s with unmatched style and authority, proving that no matter the decade, it was always the standard of the world in personal luxury. Thank you so much for joining us for this chapter. The story is far from over. Next time, we'll dive into the 1970s, a decade where the Eldorado grew to its most massive proportions and became the undisputed king of the road. You won't want to miss it. If you're enjoying this series, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter in the epic tale of the Cadillac Eldorado. See you then. Welcome back, everyone, to our journey through automotive history. Today, we're stepping into a time machine set for the swinging 60s, a decade of radical change, bold ideas, and groundbreaking style. And in the world of luxury cars, one name stood poised to redefine the very concept of personal luxury: Cadillac. Get ready, because we're diving deep into Chapter 8, the 1967 front-wheel drive revolution. The mid-1960s were a fascinating crossroads for the American auto industry. The muscle car wars were raging, compact cars were gaining traction, and the public's taste was shifting. Luxury wasn't just about sheer size anymore. It was about sophistication, technology, and a unique personal statement. For years, Cadillac had been the undisputed standard of the world, a symbol of success and American prestige. But to stay on top, you can't just rest on your laurels. You have to innovate. You have to take risks. Behind the scenes at General Motors, a project was brewing that was so audacious, so forward-thinking, that it would send shockwaves through the entire industry. This wasn't just about a new model. It was about challenging a fundamental principle of American luxury car design that had stood for over half a century. They were about to take the ultimate symbol of V8-powered, rear-wheel drive American iron and flip the script entirely. The mission: to create a personal luxury coupe that was not only the most stylish and opulent on the road, but also the most technologically advanced. The result of this mission was the magnificent 1967 Cadillac Eldorado. Now, let's set the stage. The name Eldorado already carried immense weight. Since its introduction in the early 50s, it had always represented the pinnacle of Cadillac's offerings, the most exclusive, the most expensive, and the most flamboyant. Think of the '59 Eldorado with its iconic towering tail fins. That's the legacy we're dealing with. But for 1967, Cadillac wasn't just updating the Eldorado. They were completely reinventing it. This new car would share its basic E-body platform with another GM masterpiece, the Oldsmobile Tornado, which had debuted a year earlier. But Cadillac's take on it would be distinctly, well, Cadillac. The first thing that hits you when you see a '67 Eldorado is its design. It's simply breathtaking. Chief of GM Design, Bill Mitchell, and his team crafted a masterpiece of sharp creased lines that looked like they were carved from a solid block of steel. This was a departure from the softer, more rounded shapes of the early '60s. The Eldorado's profile was long, low, and incredibly aggressive. It had a razor-edge roofline, hidden headlights behind a sophisticated grille, and a clean, uncluttered body with minimal chrome ornamentation. It looked futuristic, athletic, and impossibly elegant all at the same time. This wasn't your father's Cadillac. This was a car that looked like it belonged to a secret agent or a Hollywood movie star. It was a rolling piece of architectural art, but the real revolution, the detail that had engineers and critics buzzing, was hidden underneath that long, dramatic hood. For the first time in its history, a Cadillac was powered by its front wheels. Let that sink in for a moment. In an era where real luxury cars were exclusively rear-wheel drive, Cadillac made a bold pivot. This was a massive engineering undertaking. They developed a unique unified power plant package, which brilliantly combined a massive 429 cubic inch V8 engine and a modified turbo-hydromatic automatic transmission side by side. Power was transferred from the transmission to the differential through a silent, heavy-duty chain drive, a truly innovative solution. Why go through all this trouble? The benefits were profound. Front-wheel drive eliminated the need for a large transmission tunnel running through the passenger cabin. This meant the '67 Eldorado could boast a completely flat floor, offering limousine-like space and comfort for its passengers. No more awkward hump in the middle of the car. This dramatically enhanced the feeling of spaciousness and luxury inside. Secondly, placing the weight of that huge V8 engine directly over the drive wheels gave the Eldorado incredible traction, especially in rain, snow, or on slick roads. It was a luxury car with the sure-footedness of a mountain goat. For drivers in colder climates, this was a game-changer. The handling was also a revelation. The car felt planted, stable, and surprisingly nimble for its size. It didn't just float down the road. It drove with a confidence and precision that was new to the segment. Step inside and the experience was pure, unadulterated Cadillac. The interior was a symphony of rich fabrics, supple leathers, and polished wood trim. The dashboard wrapped around the driver, placing every control within easy reach. It came standard with features that were considered high-tech options on other cars, like automatic climate control, power windows, power seats, and a tilt and telescoping steering wheel. This was a personal cockpit designed for ultimate comfort on long-distance journeys. It was quiet, serene, and insulated from the outside world, yet it always kept you connected to the driving experience. The combination of that silent, powerful V8, the smooth shifting transmission, and the library-quiet cabin was intoxicating. You could cruise at highway speeds all day and arrive at your destination feeling refreshed, not fatigued. The 1967 Eldorado wasn't just a car, it was a statement. It announced to the world that Cadillac was not just a follower of tradition but a leader in innovation. It proved that you could combine immense power, we're talking 340 horsepower, with the sophisticated engineering of front-wheel drive. It married bold, futuristic design with classic old-world luxury. The market responded with overwhelming enthusiasm. Cadillac sold nearly 18,000 units in its first year, a massive success for a car in this exclusive price bracket. The impact of the '67 Eldorado rippled throughout the automotive world for years to come. It redefined the personal luxury coupe segment, forcing competitors to scramble and rethink their own offerings. It legitimized front-wheel drive for large, powerful American cars, paving the way for its eventual widespread adoption across the industry. The design language, with its sharp creases and bold proportions, would influence Cadillac styling for the next decade. More than anything, the 1967 Eldorado cemented Cadillac's reputation as a brand that could look to the future without abandoning the luxury and prestige that defined its past. It was a perfect fusion of power, innovation, and style, a true revolution on four wheels, or in this case, driven by two. Thank you so much for joining us on this look back at a truly legendary automobile. The 1967 Eldorado is a testament to what's possible when a company dares to be different. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next chapter in automotive history. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this classic in the comments below. Until next time, drive safe and keep the passion alive. Welcome back, everyone, to our journey through automotive history. Today, we're diving headfirst into a decade of decadence, a time when bigger was unequivocally better. This is Chapter 9, the 1970s, where the Cadillac Eldorado didn't just grow. It exploded into a rolling monument of size, style, and status. If the 60s were about establishing the Eldorado as a personal luxury icon, the 70s were about cementing its legacy as the king of the road. This was the era of the land yacht, and the Eldorado was the flagship of the entire fleet. In 1971, Cadillac unleashed a completely redesigned Eldorado, and believe me, it was a sight to behold. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement. It was longer, wider, and heavier than ever before. We were talking about a coupe that stretched over 18.5 feet long, that's longer than some modern full-size SUVs. The wheelbase alone was a massive 126.3 inches. This car had a presence that was simply impossible to ignore. When an Eldorado rolled down the street, everything else just seemed to shrink, and under that impossibly long hood, an engine to match its epic proportions. Initially, it carried over the colossal 500 cubic inch V8, which at 8.2 liters remains one of the largest displacement engines ever put into a production passenger car. It wasn't about raw speed in the traditional sense. It was about effortless, silent, and overwhelming torque. You didn't so much accelerate as you did surge forward, like a great ship leaving the harbor. The power was delivered with a smoothness that was almost surreal, isolating you completely from the mechanical world outside. It was the automotive equivalent of having your own personal locomotive. The styling was pure 70s theater. The long hood and short rear deck proportions were exaggerated to the extreme. The front grille was a bold, intricate affair, flanked by quad headlights that stared down the road with authority. Crisp, sharp body lines ran the length of the car, culminating in those iconic vertical taillights that were a Cadillac signature. And of course there were the opera windows, small, stylized windows in the C-pillars that added a touch of formal, exclusive elegance. They hinted at the privacy and luxury, enjoyed by those fortunate enough to be inside. Speaking of the inside, that's where the road yacht analogy truly came to life. Opening the massive heavy door was like stepping into your own private lounge. The interiors were lavish, opulent, and incredibly spacious. You could get plush cloth upholstery that felt like the finest furniture, or you could opt for supple, button-tufted leather in a stunning array of colors from deep reds and blues to classic whites and tans. Deep pile carpeting silenced any remaining road noise, and the dashboard was a sweep of simulated wood grain and chrome, with every control logically placed for the driver's convenience. The list of standard and available features was staggering for the time. Automatic climate control, power everything windows, seats, lock screws control, and a high-quality AM/FM stereo system. You were ensconced in a cocoon of comfort, floating down the highway in near total silence, a world away from the hustle and bustle outside. Driving an Eldorado wasn't just transportation. It was an event. It was about the experience of supreme comfort and isolation. This was a car designed for long, cross-country journeys on the newly completed interstate highway system, a machine built to devour miles with effortless grace. In 1973, the Eldorado received a facelift, primarily to meet new federal 5 mph bumper standards. But Cadillac's designers integrated these new, larger bumpers so artfully that they actually added to the car's massive, solid appearance. The grille became even more prominent, and the entire front end took on a more blocky, substantial look. It was as if Cadillac was doubling down on the bigger is better philosophy. The car now looked even more like a fortress of personal luxury, a safe and secure place to be. The mid-70s also brought the Eldorado convertible back into the spotlight. The convertible was the ultimate expression of top-down, open-road freedom. With the top lowered, the sheer scale of the car was even more apparent. It was a rolling parade float for two. However, this era also marked a turning point. In 1976, Cadillac announced that it would be the final year for the Eldorado convertible, billing it as the last American convertible. This created a frenzy among collectors and enthusiasts. People were clamoring to buy what they believed was the end of an era, and prices for these 76 convertibles skyrocketed. Of course, as we know now, the convertible would eventually make a comeback. But at the time, it felt like the end of a grand American tradition. But as the decade wore on, the world began to change. The oil crisis of 1973 and its aftershocks sent fuel prices soaring and introduced the concepts of fuel economy and downsizing to the American public. The Eldorado, a symbol of pre-crisis excess, suddenly seemed out of step with the times. Its single-digit per-gallon fuel consumption was becoming a serious liability, not just a running joke. The automotive landscape was shifting beneath its wheels. In 1977 and 78, the Eldorado continued with minor styling tweaks, but the writing was on the wall. Its gargantuan size was no longer seen as a pure asset. Cadillac's own lineup was beginning to shrink, with the full-size DeVille and Fleetwood models being significantly downsized for 1977. The Eldorado, for a couple of years, stood as a lone giant, a holdout from a bygone era of excess. It was still the king, but its kingdom was shrinking. The status it conferred was now being questioned. Was it a symbol of success or a symbol of waste? The 1970s Eldorado, from the 71 redesign to the final 78 model of this generation, represents the absolute pinnacle of the American land yacht. It was the largest, most luxurious, and most powerful personal luxury coupe Cadillac had ever built. It was a car that perfectly captured the confident, extravagant spirit of the early part of the decade. It was unapologetically large, unbelievably comfortable, and undeniably a Cadillac. It was a road yacht for the open highway, a status symbol that needed no explanation. While its time at the top was ultimately cut short by a changing world, the 70s Eldorado remains an icon, a spectacular monument to a time when size truly was king. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the magnificent 1970s Eldorado. It's a car that truly defines an era. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll see how Cadillac navigates the challenges of a new decade. We'll see you then. The year is 1973. The world is cruising along, quite literally. In America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, cars are more than just transportation. They're rolling monuments to freedom and prosperity. And no car embodied this more than the Cadillac Eldorado. It was a land yacht, a personal luxury cruiser stretching nearly 19 feet long, powered by a colossal V8 engine. Life was good. The roads were wide, gas was cheap, and the future seemed as endless as the chrome on a 73 Eldorado's bumper. But then, almost overnight, the party came to a screeching halt. In October of 1973, a geopolitical conflict halfway across the world sent shockwaves that would ripple through every aspect of American life. The Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OAPEC, proclaimed an oil embargo against nations that had supported Israel during the Yom Kippur War. The United States was at the top of that list. The tap was turned off. Suddenly, The seemingly infinite supply of cheap gasoline that fueled the American dream was gone. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Gas prices, which had been hovering around 38 cents a gallon, quadrupled. That's like your morning coffee suddenly costing as much as a fancy dinner, but the price was only half the problem. The other half was availability, or rather, the lack of it. Gas stations that had fuel were swamped. Lines of cars stretched for blocks, sometimes for miles. People would wait for hours, inching forward, hoping the pumps wouldn't run dry before they got their turn. It was chaotic, tempers flared, fights broke out. To manage the chaos, many states implemented rationing systems. You could only buy gas on certain days, based on whether your license plate ended in an odd or even number. Imagine planning your week around your license plate. This wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a fundamental shock to the American psyche. The automobile was the ultimate symbol of personal freedom, the ability to go anywhere, anytime. Now, that freedom was being rationed. People started asking questions they'd never considered before. Do I really need to drive to the store? Can we carpool to work? And the biggest question of all, one that sent a shiver down the spine of Detroit's automakers. Do I really need a car that gets 8 miles to the gallon? For the mighty Cadillac Eldorado, this question was an existential threat. Its entire identity was built on excess. Its 500 cubic inch V8 engine was the largest production V8 of its time, a magnificent beast designed for effortless, smooth power, not for sipping fuel. In the pre-crisis world, its single-digit fuel economy was a badge of honor. It meant you had made it. You didn't need to worry about the cost of gas. But in the long lines of 1974, that badge of honor started to look like a sign of foolishness. The very thing that made the Eldorado so desirable, its unapologetic size and power, was suddenly its greatest liability. The national conversation shifted. Words like efficiency and fuel economy, once relegated to nerdy engineering journals, were now front-page news. President Nixon addressed the nation, urging citizens to lower their thermostats and reduce their driving. Speed limits were slashed nationwide to 55 miles per hour to conserve fuel. The open road, once a symbol of boundless possibility, now had a speed limit dictated by a global crisis. The carefree cruising culture of the late 60s and early 70s was over. This new reality hit the auto industry like a ton of bricks. Showrooms full of massive, gas-guzzling land yachts suddenly felt like museums of a bygone era. Sales of large cars plummeted. Meanwhile, something interesting was happening. Dealerships that sold small, funny-looking foreign cars, Toyotas, Datsuns, Hondas, couldn't keep them in stock. These cars, once dismissed as econoboxes, were suddenly the hottest ticket in town. They were small, they were reliable, and most importantly, they sipped gas, often getting 2 or 3 times the mileage of a big American sedan. For the first time, American automakers had serious competition, and they were caught completely flat-footed. Their entire business model was built around bigger is better. For decades, they had convinced the public that a new car should be longer, lower, and wider than the last one. Now the public wanted the exact opposite. This wasn't just a change in taste. It was a revolution in consumer values. The definition of luxury was starting to change. Was it about sheer size and power, or was it about smart engineering, efficiency, and being responsible? Cadillac and other American luxury brands were in a bind. How do you pivot a battleship? Their entire production line, their engineering philosophy, their marketing, everything was geared towards building massive cars. The 1974 Eldorado, which had been designed years before the crisis, rolled into showrooms as a relic of a world that no longer existed. It was still a magnificent car, quiet, comfortable, and powerful, but driving it felt different. It felt extravagant, maybe even a little irresponsible. The oil crisis of 1973 didn't kill the Cadillac Eldorado overnight, but it fired the starting pistol on a race that Cadillac and other American luxury brands were unprepared for. The ground had shifted beneath their wheels. The public's love affair with limitless size and power was over, replaced by a new, more pragmatic set of demands. The era of the land yacht was beginning to wane, and a new, more challenging era was dawning. Automakers had to adapt or face extinction. The question was no longer how big and bold they could make their cars, but how smart and efficient they could be. For the Eldorado, the undisputed king of American personal luxury, the challenge to its throne had begun. The world was changing, and the king would have to change with it, or risk being left behind in the history books. Thanks for joining us on this look back at a pivotal moment in automotive history. It's just fascinating to see how global events can so drastically change something as personal as the car we choose to drive. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We'll see you in the next video. Welcome back, car enthusiasts, to our ongoing saga of automotive legends. Today, we're diving into Chapter 11, a tale of change and challenge that I call Downsizing with Dignity. We're heading into the turbulent 1980s, a decade that forced even the mightiest automakers to rethink everything they knew. At the center of this storm was none other than Cadillac, and its crown jewel, the Eldorado. The 1970s had been the era of bigger is better. Eldorados were colossal, chrome-laden land yachts, rolling symbols of American excess and confidence. They had engines that guzzled fuel with abandon and wheelbases that rivaled small boats. But as the 1980s dawned, a new reality set in. Fuel crises, changing consumer tastes, and increasing competition from sophisticated European and Japanese luxury brands meant that the old playbook was no longer viable. The winds of change were blowing, and Cadillac had to trim its sails. So, Cadillac embarked on one of the most ambitious and controversial redesigns in its history. The mission: create a new Eldorado for a new age. This wasn't just a minor facelift. It was a fundamental reinvention. The directive from the top was clear: make it smaller, make it lighter, and most importantly, make it vastly more fuel efficient. The era of the 8-liter V8 was over. The new Eldorado had to be a modern, responsible luxury car. But here was the multi-billion-dollar question. How do you shrink a legend without diminishing its legendary status? How do you downsize a car whose entire identity was built on size and presence, while still calling it an Eldorado? This was the tightrope Cadillac had to walk. They were trying to preserve the grandeur, the luxury, and the unmistakable Cadillac feel, but in a package that was radically more compact. The result was the 1986 model year Eldorado. When it debuted, the public and the press were, to put it mildly, shocked. Parked next to its predecessor from just a year earlier, the new Eldorado looked like it had been left in the dryer too long. It was a staggering 16 inches shorter, over 3 inches narrower, and it shed a whopping 600 pounds. The long hood and short deck proportions that had defined personal luxury coupes were dramatically altered. The once imposing grille seemed less assertive, and the whole car had a softer, more aerodynamic, and distinctly European-inspired look. Under the hood, the changes were just as drastic. The big V8 South were gone, replaced by a new transversely mounted, all-aluminum 4.1-liter V8 engine driving the front wheels. This was a technological leap for Cadillac, designed to deliver smooth, adequate power with fuel economy figures that would have been unthinkable for an Eldorado just a few years prior. The focus was on efficiency, lightweight construction, and modern engineering. Inside, Cadillac tried desperately to hang on to its reputation for opulence. The cabin was still a sea of soft leather or plush velour, depending on your preference. Digital instrumentation, a hallmark of 80s high-tech, greeted the driver with a futuristic green glow. Climate control, power everything, and concert-quality sound systems were all standard. The message was clear. While the outside was smaller, the inside was still a sanctuary of pure, unadulterated Cadillac comfort. They wanted you to feel like you were still in a proper luxury car, even if the exterior dimensions suggested otherwise. But the market's reaction was brutal. Long-time, loyal Cadillac buyers were bewildered. They walked into showrooms, looked at the new Eldorado, and simply couldn't reconcile its compact size with their idea of what a Cadillac should be. Where was the commanding presence? Where was the road-hugging weight? To many, this new car didn't feel like an Eldorado. It felt small. It felt like a compromise. The dramatic downsizing had inadvertently stripped the car of its core identity. The automotive press was equally critical, though for different reasons. While they acknowledged the engineering efforts, many felt the car was underpowered and that its styling was too generic. In the quest to chase European trends, some argued that Cadillac had lost its uniquely American swagger. The car was caught in a no-man's land, too small and understated for traditional buyers, yet not quite sharp or sporty enough to lure buyers away from brands like BMW or Mercedes-Benz. Sales plummeted. The 1986 Eldorado became one of the biggest sales disasters in Cadillac's history. It was a painful lesson in brand identity. Cadillac had correctly identified the need for change. The need for smaller, more efficient cars was real. Their engineering was, in many ways, forward-thinking. But they had underestimated the emotional connection their customers had with the sheer size and presence of their previous models. They had downsized the car, but in the eyes of their core audience, they had also downsized its prestige. In retrospect, the 1986 Eldorado is a fascinating case study. It represents a pivotal moment when a proud century-old brand was forced to confront a rapidly changing world. They were trying to be responsible, to look to the future, and to adapt. The execution, however, missed the mark. They tried to downsize with dignity, but the transition was too abrupt, too radical. It alienated the faithful, without necessarily winning over new converts. The story doesn't end there, of course. Cadillac would spend the next several years trying to correct this misstep, gradually adding size, power, and more traditional styling cues back to the Eldorado in subsequent updates. They learned the hard way that you can't abandon your heritage overnight, no matter how strong the winds of change are blowing. The downsizing experiment of the mid-80s was a painful but necessary chapter, forcing Cadillac to re-evaluate what it truly meant to be America's premier luxury brand in the modern era. It's a reminder that in the world of cars, it's not just about engineering and efficiency. It's about emotion, identity, and the story a car tells. The 1986 Eldorado told a story of confusion, a brand caught between its glorious past and an uncertain future. And that's why this chapter, this attempt at downsizing with dignity, remains one of the most compelling and cautionary tales in automotive history. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into a controversial classic. What are your thoughts on this generation of Eldorado? Was it a misunderstood marvel or a disastrous misstep? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you resubscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in our journey. We'll see you next time. In the grand tapestry of automotive history, few cars have woven themselves into the very fabric of a nation's identity quite like the Cadillac Eldorado. This isn't just a story about a car. It's the story of America itself, told through chrome, steel, and unbridled ambition. Welcome to the final chapter of our journey, where we explore how the Eldorado became more than just a car, it became a symbol. Imagine post-war America. The nation was riding a wave of unprecedented optimism and prosperity. There was a palpable sense of confidence in the air, a belief that anything was possible. America was looking forward, reaching for the stars, and it needed a chariot to match its mood. Enter the Cadillac Eldorado. From its very first appearance as a limited edition concept in 1953, the Eldorado was a statement. It wasn't designed to be practical or understated. It was a declaration of success, a rolling testament to the American dream. The name itself, Eldorado, evokes images of a mythical golden city, a land of fabulous wealth. And that's exactly what the car represented. Owning an Eldorado meant you had arrived. It was the ultimate status symbol, a clear signal that you were part of America's new aristocracy of achievement. The car's design philosophy mirrored the nation's confidence. Think of those iconic tail fins of the late 1950s. They weren't just a design choice. They were a cultural phenomenon. Inspired by the burgeoning space race and the sleek lines of jet fighters, these fins reached for the sky, symbolizing a nation's upward trajectory and its fascination with the future. The 1959 Eldorado, with its towering, jewel-like twin-bullet tail lights, is perhaps the most audacious expression of this era. It was pure, unapologetic optimism cast in metal. This car was a reflection of America's ambition. The sheer size of the Eldorado was staggering. These were long, wide, and heavy machines that consumed the road with an imperial presence. In an era before fuel economy was a concern, their powerful V8 engines offered effortless performance, a mechanical parallel to America's can-do spirit and its seemingly limitless resources. The Eldorado wasn't just about getting from point A to point B, it was about the journey itself. It was about cruising down wide-open highways with the wind in your hair and the world at your feet. It captured the sense of freedom and boundless opportunity that defined the American experience for so many. But the Eldorado was also a showcase of American craftsmanship. In the mid-20th century, Made in America was a stamp of quality, and Cadillac was the pinnacle of that promise. The interiors were a world of luxury, swathed in the finest leathers, rich fabrics, and genuine wood trim. Every button, every switch, every piece of chrome was engineered with a sense of permanence and quality. These were not disposable products. They were heirlooms, built to last. The Eldorado was also a technological pioneer, often introducing features that would later become standard across the industry, like power windows, power seats, and air conditioning. This constant innovation was a reflection of America's industrial might and its relentless drive to push the boundaries of what was possible. As America changed, so did the Eldorado. The flamboyant excess of the 50s gave way to the more chiseled personal luxury coupes of the 60s and 70s. The 1967 Eldorado, with its groundbreaking front-wheel drive layout and sharp, elegant styling, represented a new kind of modern sophistication. It was still a symbol of success, but it was a more refined, self-assured success, mirroring a nation that was becoming more complex and introspective. Even through the challenges of the 70s and 80s, the Eldorado adapted, downsizing but never losing its fundamental character as Cadillac's flagship. Hollywood, of course, immortalized the Eldorado's cultural status. From Elvis Presley, who owned several, to countless films and TV shows, the car became shorthand for wealth, power, and cool. It was the car of movie stars, musicians, and mavericks. When you saw an Eldorado on screen, you instantly understood something about the character who was driving it. It was a cultural icon, recognized and understood around the world as a purely American phenomenon. It represented a specific brand of American style, bold, confident, and a little bit larger than life. Today, when we look back at the classic Eldorados, we're not just seeing old cars. We're seeing artifacts of a specific time and place. We see the boundless optimism of the 1950s, the sleek modernism of the 1960s, and the personal luxury of the 1970s. Each model is a chapter in the American story. It's a physical manifestation of a nation's highest aspirations, its creative energy, and its belief in itself. The Eldorado was never just a means of transportation. It was a dream, a statement, and a mirror held up to the soul of a nation. It was, and forever will be, a true symbol of American identity. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey through the history of the Cadillac Eldorado. It's been a privilege to share these stories with you. If you've enjoyed this series, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss what we have coming up next. We'd love to hear your own Eldorado stories or memories in the comments below. Until next time, keep the passion for classic cars alive. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the glitz, glamour, and cultural impact of a true automotive icon, the Cadillac Eldorado. But we're not just talking about its engineering or design. We're re-exploring how this magnificent machine drove straight off the assembly line and into the heart of pop culture, becoming a star in its own right. From the silver screen to the sound waves, the Eldorado wasn't just a car. It was a statement, a symbol of success, style, and the American dream. So buckle up as we take a ride through the movies, music, and moments that immortalized the Cadillac Eldorado. Let's start with the undisputed king of rock and roll and his equally famous Cadillac. Yes, we're talking about Elvis Presley. While he owned many Cadillacs, none is more legendary than his pink Cadillac. Originally a 1955 Eldorado in blue, Elvis had it custom painted a soft pink, which he called Elvis Rose. This wasn't just a car, it was an extension of his flamboyant personality. He famously gave it to his mother, Gladys, even though she couldn't drive. The car became a symbol of his love for his family and his larger-than-life persona. It appeared in songs, was referenced countless times, and cemented the link between Cadillac, rock and roll, and ultimate cool. The image of Elvis and his pink Eldorado is one of the most enduring snapshots of 1950s Americana. But Elvis wasn't the only one. The Eldorado quickly became Hollywood's favorite four-wheeled co-star. Its presence on screen instantly added a layer of sophistication, power, or sometimes audacious swagger. Think about the classic 1983 film Scarface. Tony Montana's yellow 1983 Eldorado Biarritz convertible wasn't just a ride. It was his throne. With its tiger print interior, it was a loud, bold declaration of his newfound power and excess. The car perfectly mirrored his character's meteoric rise and flamboyant lifestyle. Every time you see that car, you immediately think of that film's intensity and unforgettable style. It's a perfect example of how a car can become an integral part of a character's identity. Let's shift gears to another genre. In the gritty world of Goodfellas, the 1979 Cadillac Eldorado Biarritz plays a pivotal, if not entirely glamorous, role. It's the car that Jimmy Conway is obsessed with after the Lufthansa heist. The character's desire for these luxury items, like minks and Cadillacs, becomes their downfall. The Eldorado here represents the forbidden fruit, the dangerous allure of the mob life. It's a symbol of the lavish rewards, but also the paranoia and greed that ultimately unravels everything. Martin Scorsese used the car not just as set dressing, but as a crucial plot device, showcasing the character's fatal flaws. The Eldorado's cinematic resume is incredibly diverse. Remember Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? The Red Shark, a 1971 Eldorado convertible, is practically a main character alongside Johnny Depp's Raoul Duke. It's the vessel for their wild, surreal journey through the desert. The car, with its vast size and blood-red color, becomes a symbol of American excess and the chaotic hallucinatory adventure they're on. It's more than transportation. It's their chaotic chariot carrying them through the unraveling of the American dream. The car feels alive, a partner in their bizarre quest. And what about comedy? In True Romance, written by Quentin Tarantino, the purple 1974 Eldorado convertible that belongs to the pimp, Drexel Spivey, is unforgettable. It's over-the-top, gaudy, and perfectly suits his menacing yet absurd character. When Clarence and Alabama take the car, it becomes their escape vehicle, a stolen symbol of a dangerous world they're trying to leave behind. The car's distinct look makes it instantly memorable and a key visual in a film packed with iconic imagery. It's proof that the Eldorado could be menacing, funny, and cool all at the same time. Moving from the big screen to the music scene, the Eldorado was a constant muse for artists across genres. Bruce Springsteen's iconic song, Pink Cadillac, is a direct nod to the rock and roll dream established by Elvis. For Springsteen, the pink Cadillac is a metaphor for desire, temptation, and the ultimate prize. It's not just a car. It's a symbol of love, escape, and a little bit of earthly paradise. The song became a huge hit, further solidifying the Eldorado's place in the musical lexicon. It's a tune that instantly makes you picture cruising down an open road in a classic Caddy. Hip-hop culture also embraced the Eldorado, particularly the models from the 70s and 80s. Artists like Snoop Dogg, Outkast, and Jay-Z have all referenced or featured Cadillacs in their lyrics and videos. For them, the Eldorado, especially a customized one with spokes and vogues, was a symbol of making it, of success achieved on their own terms. It represented hustle, style, and neighborhood royalty. In Outkast's Players Ball, the Cadillac is central to the imagery, representing the smooth, laid-back cool of the Atlanta scene. It was a rolling testament to their unique identity and artistic success, a far cry from the Hollywood glamour, but just as powerful. The Eldorado's influence wasn't just limited to film and music. It popped up in television shows, from the crime dramas of the 70s to modern series looking to capture a specific vintage vibe. Seeing an Eldorado in a show like The Sopranos or Mad Men immediately grounds the scene in a particular era, instantly communicating a sense of status, power, or nostalgia. It's a piece of visual shorthand that directors and designers have relied on for decades. Its silhouette is unmistakable, and its presence always means something. It's never just a car in the background, so why the Eldorado? What gave it this incredible cultural staying power? It's a combination of things. Its bold, often audacious design was impossible to ignore. From the massive tail fins of the 50s to the sharp, personal luxury lines of the 70s, the Eldorado always made a statement. It was unapologetically big, comfortable, and powerful. It represented a uniquely American brand of optimism and excess. Owning an Eldorado meant you had arrived. It was a tangible piece of the American dream that you could see, touch, and drive. This aspirational quality is what made it so appealing to filmmakers and musicians. They could use the car to instantly define a character or a mood. A pristine classic Eldorado could signify old money elegance. A beat-up, rusty one could represent faded glory or a dream deferred. A loud, custom-painted one could scream new money and rebellion. No matter its condition, the Eldorado was always more than just a car. It was a story on wheels. From a rockabilly king in Memphis to a fictional gangster in Miami, from the open roads of Springsteen's Jersey to the surreal desert of Hunter S. Thompson's mind, the Cadillac Eldorado has been there. It has been a symbol of hope, a beacon of excess, a partner in crime, and a monument to style. It is a rare thing for a consumer product to transcend its original purpose and become a cultural touchstone, but the Eldorado did exactly that. It didn't just reflect American culture, it helped shape it. Thank you so much for joining me on this cultural road trip. The story of the Eldorado is a fascinating chapter in automotive history, showing how a car can capture the imagination and become a true legend. What's your favorite pop culture moment featuring an Eldorado? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more stories from the world of classic cars. We'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to our journey through automotive history. Today, we're diving into a decade of dramatic change, a time when tradition met technology head-on. We're talking about the 1990s and the ambitious redesigns of the Cadillac Eldorado. As the millennium approached, Cadillac knew it had to do more than just offer luxury. It had to innovate. The 90s were Cadillac's declaration that the future of American luxury was here, and the Eldorado was its flagship vessel, sailing into uncharted technological waters. The decade kicked off with a bang. While the late 80s models had started reintroducing classic Eldorado styling cues, the truly transformative chapter began with the 1992 model year. This wasn't just a facelift, it was a complete rebirth. Cadillac unveiled a new 10th-generation Eldorado that was longer, wider, and unapologetically bold. It shed the last vestiges of the downsized 80s and reclaimed its commanding presence on the road. The design was sleeker, more aerodynamic, yet it carried that unmistakable Cadillac gravitas. Sharp, creased lines blended with flowing curves, creating a look that was both muscular and elegant. It was a clear signal to the world, and especially to its European and Japanese rivals, that Cadillac was ready to compete on a global stage, not just in terms of size, but in style and sophistication. This new design language would set the tone for the entire decade. But the real revolution was happening under the hood and inside the cabin. The 1990s was the era where performance became a crucial part of the luxury equation for Cadillac. And the heart of this new philosophy was the legendary Northstar V8 engine. Introduced in 1993, the Northstar wasn't just an engine. It was a statement. This 4.6-liter, 32-valve, dual overhead cam V8 was a marvel of engineering. Initially pumping out a robust 295 horsepower in the Eldorado Touring Coupe, or ETC, it transformed the Eldorado from a comfortable cruiser into a genuine performance coupe. This was a car that could go from 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds, figures that put it squarely in contention with the best from Germany. The Northstar engine was smooth, powerful, and incredibly advanced for its time. It even featured a limp home mode, allowing it to run without coolant for a considerable distance, a testament to Cadillac's focus on blending high-tech performance with real-world reliability and peace of mind. Step inside the 90s Eldorado and you'd feel like you'd entered the cockpit of a futuristic craft. Cadillac went all in on digital integration. The old analog gauges were being replaced by vibrant, clear digital dashboards. These weren't the simple digital clocks of the 80s. This was a comprehensive driver information center. You could monitor fuel economy, engine diagnostics, and trip data, all with the press of a button. It was a fusion of luxury and information technology. The instrument panel wrapped around the driver, creating an immersive experience. Everything was designed to be within easy reach, with an emphasis on ergonomics and driver focus. This was a car that didn't just coddle you in leather and wood trim. It empowered you with information and control. The goal was to make driving not just comfortable, but effortless and intuitive. Beyond the dashboard, the entire car was a showcase of 90s tech. Features that we take for granted today were cutting edge back then. We're talking about things like the integrated chassis control system. This system was the car's central brain, coordinating the engine, the new 4-speed electronically controlled transmission, the traction control, and the adaptive suspension. Speaking of which, the road-sensing suspension was another groundbreaking feature. It could read the road surface and adjust the dampers in real time, in mere milliseconds, to provide the perfect balance between a cloud-like ride and sharp, responsive handling. You could be cruising down the highway in total comfort, and the moment you turned onto a winding back road, the car would firm up, ready to carve through the corners. It was like having two cars in one, a plush luxury sedan and a spirited sports coupe. The Eldorado Touring Coupe, or ETC, was the ultimate expression of this new performance luxury blend. It received the most powerful version of the Northstar engine and was tuned for a more dynamic driving experience. It had a stiffer suspension, faster steering, and more aggressive tires. Visually, it was distinguished by unique body-colored grilles and subtle badging. The ETC wasn't just about straight-line speed. It was about creating a complete cohesive performance package. It was Cadillac's direct challenge to the likes of the BMW 8 Series and the Lexus SC400. And for the first time in a long time, the Eldorado had the engineering muscle to back up its bold claims. It was praised by critics for its potent engine and surprisingly agile handling for a car of its size. As the decade progressed, Cadillac continued to refine the formula. The North Star engine received regular updates, boosting its smoothness and reliability. The interior tech also evolved. Onboard navigation systems began to appear, a true novelty at the time. Memory seats, dual-zone climate control, and premium sound systems from Bose became standard fare, cementing the Eldorado's position at the pinnacle of American personal luxury. Every year, Cadillac seemed to add another layer of technology and refinement. Keeping the Eldorado fresh and competitive in a rapidly evolving market, they weren't just resting on their laurels. They were actively pushing the boundaries of what a personal luxury coupe could be. However, the 1990s also marked the beginning of a larger shift in the automotive landscape. The popularity of SUVs was beginning to explode, and the market for large, two-door personal luxury coupes was shrinking. Despite the Eldorado's technological prowess and impressive performance, it was fighting against a changing tide of consumer preference. Buyers were increasingly drawn to the practicality and high driving position of vehicles like the Cadillac Escalade, which was introduced late in the decade. The very concept of a large, luxurious coupe, which had been the epitome of success for decades, was becoming a niche category. Looking back, the 1990s Eldorado represents a fascinating and pivotal moment for Cadillac. It was a valiant, all-out effort to redefine American luxury for the modern age. The blend of classic bold styling with the high-tech heart of the North Star V8 and a digitally driven cockpit created a car that was truly unique. It was powerful, comfortable, and technologically advanced. It proved that an American luxury car could perform with the best in the world while still delivering the plush, serene ride that Cadillac was famous for. The 90s Eldorado was a car that dared to be both a muscle car and a luxury cruiser, a tech hub, and a style icon. While the story of the Eldorado would eventually come to a close in the following decade, the legacy of the 1990s redesigns is undeniable. The North Star architecture would power Cadillacs for years to come, and the brand's focus on integrating technology and performance into the core of the luxury experience became a central part of its identity, a philosophy that continues to this day. The 90s Eldorado was a bridge between Cadillac's storied past and its high-tech future. It was a final glorious celebration of the American personal luxury coupe, loaded with all the power and gadgets a new era could handle. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the 90s Cadillac Eldorado. It's a truly special car from a transformative decade. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know your favorite feature of the 90s Eldorado in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter in automotive history. Until next time, drive safe and keep the passion alive. Welcome back to our series, where today we dive into Chapter 15, Competing in a Changing Market. For decades, the Cadillac Eldorado was the undisputed king of American personal luxury. It was a statement on wheels, a rolling testament to success. But as the 1970s bled into the 1980s, the automotive landscape began to shift dramatically. The tides were turning and a storm was brewing across the Atlantic. Previously, if you wanted a top-tier luxury coupe in America, the choice was simple: you bought a Cadillac. But a new generation of buyers was emerging with different tastes and priorities. They weren't just looking for chrome and comfort. They were seeking performance, precision engineering, and a new kind of prestige. And that's exactly what European brands like BMW and Mercedes-Benz were offering. Think about it. While the Eldorado was still a land yacht, built for comfortable, straight-line cruising, companies like BMW were marketing their cars as the ultimate driving machine. They offered responsive handling, advanced engineering, and a driver-focused experience that was thrillingly different. Mercedes-Benz, on the other hand, represented a kind of understated bank vault solidity. Their cars were meticulously crafted, projecting an image of timeless quality and engineering excellence rather than flashy style. Suddenly, the Eldorado's formula started to look a little dated. Its traditional rivals, like the Lincoln Mark series, were fighting the same battle. But the real threat came from overseas. These new imports were smaller, more fuel-efficient, a huge selling point after the oil crisis of the 70s, and they handled with a nimbleness that American luxury barges simply couldn't match. Cadillac wasn't sitting still, of course. They saw the writing on the wall. Their response was the downsized front-wheel drive Eldorado of 1979. It was a radical departure, shedding nearly a foot in length and almost half a ton in weight. It was a good car, praised for its more manageable size and improved efficiency. It even offered an independent rear suspension, a feature that promised better road manners. On paper, it was the right move. But the market is about more than just specs on a page. It's about perception. And for many, the smaller Eldorado felt like a compromise. The grand imposing presence was gone. In its place was a car that seemed to be trying to be something it wasn't. It was caught in the middle, not quite as opulent as its predecessors, and not nearly as sporty as its new European rivals. Then came the engine troubles that plagued General Motors in the early 80s. The infamous V8 6.4 engine, a technologically ambitious but ultimately unreliable attempt at cylinder deactivation, damaged Cadillac's reputation for dependability. The HT4100 V8 that followed was underpowered and prone to failure, further eroding consumer confidence. While BMW and Mercedes were building a reputation for bulletproof reliability and smooth, powerful engines, Cadillac was struggling with its own technology. The perception gap widened. A BMW 3 Series or a Mercedes 190e became the new status symbol for young, upwardly mobile professionals. Driving a Cadillac, once the pinnacle of aspiration, started to be seen by some as old-fashioned, the car your father or grandfather drove. The Eldorado was losing its cool factor. Let's look at the 1986 Eldorado. This was perhaps the most controversial redesign in the model's history. In an attempt to directly compete with the smaller European coupes, Cadillac shrunk the Eldorado again, dramatically. It was so small, in fact, that it was easily mistaken for a less expensive GM model, like a Buick or an Oldsmobile. The distinctive, sharp Eldorado styling was softened into a generic, rounded shape. The reaction was immediate and brutal. Sales plummeted. Longtime Cadillac loyalists were horrified. The car had lost its visual distinction, its road presence, its very essence. It was a classic case of a brand losing its identity in the pursuit of a new audience, and in doing so, alienating its core base. It was a painful lesson. You can't out BMW, you have to be Cadillac. While the Eldorado was having an identity crisis, Mercedes was rolling out iconic cars like the W126 S-Class Coupe, the 560 SEC. It was a masterpiece of design and engineering. It was big, but it was athletic. It was luxurious, but it was tasteful. It was incredibly expensive, and it felt like it. It was everything the modern luxury buyer wanted, and it made the contemporary Eldorado look completely out of its league. BMW, meanwhile, was cementing its performance credentials with the M series. The M3 and M5 were creating a new category of executive sports sedans, blending practicality with racetrack-level performance. They were exciting, they were aspirational, and they were capturing the hearts and minds of a generation of enthusiasts who saw driving as a passion, not just a means of transportation. In this fiercely competitive new world, the Eldorado struggled to find its footing. It had been the standard, the benchmark. Now it was being forced to react. It was trying to compete on fuel economy, then on size, then on technology, but it always felt one step behind. The European brands had a clear, confident vision of what they were, while Cadillac seemed unsure of what the Eldorado should be anymore. It wasn't that the Eldorado was a bad car. Later generations, particularly from the 90s, saw a return to form with more distinctive styling and the brilliant North Star V8 engine. The 1992 Eldorado, for example, was a handsome car that recaptured some of that old Cadillac magic. But by then, a lot of ground had been lost. The market had been permanently changed. The struggle of the Eldorado in this era is a fascinating case study in brand management. It shows how quickly a dominant market leader can find itself on the defensive when it fails to anticipate shifts in consumer taste and underestimates new competition. The European brands didn't just sell cars. They sold a lifestyle, a philosophy of driving that resonated deeply with a new generation of luxury buyers. The legacy of the Eldorado is complex. It remains an icon of American automotive history, a symbol of post-war optimism and unapologetic luxury. But its story is also a cautionary tale. A tale of how difficult it is to stay on top, how challenging it is to adapt to a changing world without losing your soul. The king of the American road found itself in a traffic jam of its own making, challenged by new, agile competitors who rewrote the rules of the luxury game. The Eldorado's struggle to remain relevant is a pivotal chapter not just for Cadillac, but for the entire American auto industry. It marked the end of an era of dominance and the beginning of a new, globalized, and far more competitive market that continues to define the cars we drive today. Thanks for joining us on this look back at the Eldorado's challenging years. The story of Cadillac is far from over, and it's full of more twists and turns. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in our series. We love reading your comments, so let us know your thoughts on the Eldorado and its European rivals down below. Until next time, keep the passion for cars alive. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our automotive journey. Today, we arrive at a bittersweet destination, a chapter that closes a truly remarkable story in American car history. We're talking about the final curtain call for a legend, the Cadillac Eldorado. The year is 2002, and after nearly half a century of defining personal luxury, the end of the road had finally arrived. It is a moment that wasn't just about a single model but symbolized the closing of an era. The Eldorado wasn't merely a car. It was a statement, a rolling testament to American optimism, style, and innovation. From the dazzling fins of the 50s to the crisp lines of the new millennium, it had seen it all. But as the automotive landscape shifted and consumer tastes evolved, even legends must sometimes take their final bow. So let's take a look back at the final days and the lasting legacy of the one and only Cadillac Eldorado. To understand the weight of this moment, we have to remember what the Eldorado represented. For 5 decades, it was Cadillac's flagship, the car that pushed boundaries. Think back to 1953, the Motorama dream car that became a reality, an instant icon of exclusivity. Remember the '59 Eldorado, the absolute peak of tailfin excess and chrome-laden confidence? Or the '67, a front-wheel drive masterpiece that redefined the personal luxury coupe with its sharp architectural styling? Through the '70s and '80s, it adapted, sometimes controversially, but it always remained a symbol of attainment. It was the car you bought when you'd made it. It graced the garages of celebrities, executives, and anyone who appreciated bold American design. The name Eldorado itself, meaning the Gilded One, was a promise of something special, something beyond the ordinary. It was a promise Cadillac had kept for generations. By the late 1990s, however, the world was a different place. The market for large two-door personal luxury coupes was shrinking dramatically. A new generation of buyers was flocking to performance sedans and, more significantly, luxury SUVs. The very concept that the Eldorado championed, a big, comfortable, stylish cruiser for two, was becoming a niche. Cadillac itself was in the midst of a radical transformation, developing its art and science design language, which favored sharp, angular, and athletic forms. Models like the CTS were pointing the way to a new, more performance-oriented future for the brand, one that aimed to compete directly with German rivals. In this new landscape, the Eldorado, with its classic, softer lines and front-wheel drive platform, began to look like a holdover from a bygone era. The writing was on the wall. Sales had been declining for years, and the business case for developing an all-new generation was simply no longer there. In a fitting tribute to the car's storied past, Cadillac decided to send the Eldorado off with a special final edition. For the 2002 model year, a limited run of 1,596 Eldorado Collector Series models was produced. This number wasn't random. It was a nod to the 1,596 employees at the Lansing Craft Center where the car was built. These final cars were a true homage to the Eldorado's history. They were available in just 2 colors, Alpine White and Aztec Red, reminiscent of the 2 colors offered on the original 1953 Eldorado. Each car featured a unique 2-tone leather interior, special emblems, and a numbered plaque on the dashboard, signifying its place in this exclusive final run. The exhaust note was even specially tuned to give it a more muscular, powerful sound, a final roar from the lion of the personal luxury world. It was a classy and respectful way to say goodbye, a collector's item from the moment it rolled off the assembly line. The very last 3 Eldorado Collector Series cars were produced in identical shades of red, white, and blue, a patriotic farewell to an American icon. The final car, stunning white coupe, completed its journey down the Lansing assembly line on April 22, 2002. It was a somber day for the workers and for Cadillac enthusiasts everywhere. That final car wasn't sent to a dealership. It was preserved for history, becoming part of the Cadillac Historical Collection. The end of Eldorado production also meant the closure of the Lansing Craft Center, a plant that had been responsible for building specialty low-volume cars like the Eldorado, the Buick Reatta, and the EV1 electric car. It was the end of an era not just for a car model but for a unique piece of GM's manufacturing history as well. The lights went out and the assembly line fell silent. An automotive story, 50 years in the making, had reached its final page. So, what is the legacy of the Cadillac Eldorado? It's far more than just a collection of classic cars. The Eldorado's legacy is about ambition and style. It represents a time when American automakers weren't afraid to be bold, to build cars that were extravagant, expressive, and unapologetically luxurious. It pioneered technologies, from air suspension in the 50s to the groundbreaking front-wheel drive system of the 60s. It defined a market segment for nearly its entire existence. While tastes may have changed, the spirit of the Eldorado lives on in every car that dares to prioritize style and comfort, in every design that makes a bold personal statement. It's just a reminder of the power of a name and the enduring appeal of the open road in a car that makes you feel special. The Eldorado wasn't just transportation. It was an experience. Looking back from today's perspective, the decision to end Eldorado production seems inevitable. The market had moved on. But that doesn't diminish its importance. The classic Eldorados of the 50s, 60s, and 70s are now highly sought-after collector cars, appreciating in value as new generations discover their unique charm and historical significance. They are fixtures at car shows, rolling sculptures that still turn heads and draw crowds. They represent a high-water mark of American automotive design and confidence. Even the later models have a dedicated following of enthusiasts who appreciate their unique blend of traditional luxury and modern-for-the-time technology. The name Eldorado still resonates with a sense of prestige and history that few other models can claim. It's a name that is permanently etched into the heart of American car culture. And so we close the book on the Cadillac Eldorado. 50 years, 12 generations, one legendary name. It was a car that defined an era of glamour, power, and personal expression. From the dream cars of the post-war boom to the final collector's edition of the new millennium, the Eldorado was always more than just a car. It was a piece of the American dream, rendered in steel, chrome, and leather. It was a symbol of success, a statement of arrival, and a rolling work of art. The production line may have stopped in 2002, but the journey of the Eldorado is far from over. It continues on the highways in the hands of dedicated owners, in museums for all to admire, and in the memories of everyone who ever saw one glide by and thought, "Now that's a Cadillac." The road has ended, but the legend will drive on forever. Thank you so much for joining me on this look back at the final chapter of the incredible Cadillac Eldorado. It's been a privilege to share its story with you. If you enjoyed this video and love automotive history as much as I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the cars that made history. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. We'll see you in the next video. Welcome back to our final chapter in the grand saga of the Cadillac Eldorado. While the production lines may have gone silent, the story of this automotive icon is far from over. In fact, a vibrant and passionate new chapter is being written every single day, not in a factory but in garages, workshops, and museums all across the world. This is the story of the collectors, the restorers, and the devoted enthusiasts who ensure the Eldorado's chrome and leather glory never fades. It's a testament to the car's timeless appeal that its heart beats stronger than ever, fueled by the love of those who refuse to let the legend die. So who are these modern-day guardians of the Eldorado legacy? They're people from all walks of life, united by a shared passion. You'll find the meticulous restorer, spending countless hours sourcing a period-correct hubcap or a specific shade of paint to bring a 59 Biarritz back to its factory-fresh splendor. You'll meet the weekend cruiser, the person who simply loves the feeling of floating down the highway in a 76 convertible, top down, soaking in the sun, and the admiring glances. And you'll find the dedicated historian who can tell you the production numbers, the design changes, and the stories behind every single model year. For these enthusiasts, owning an Eldorado is more than just having a classic car. It's about owning a piece of American history. A rolling sculpture that represents an era of unparalleled optimism, style, and ambition. Getting behind the wheel of a perfectly preserved or restored Eldorado is like stepping into a time machine. The scent of aged leather, the satisfyingly solid click of the door, the rumble of that big V8 engine is as a multi-sensory experience that connects you directly to the past. It's a connection to an era when cars were more than just transportation. They were statements. The world of Eldorado restoration is a fascinating subculture in itself. It's a realm of incredible skill, patience, and detective work. Imagine trying to find a specific piece of trim for a 1957 Eldorado broom, a car of which only a few hundred were made. Restorers become experts in navigating parts catalogs, connecting with other owners through online forums and car clubs, and sometimes even fabricating parts from scratch when original ones simply don't exist anymore. It's a labor of love, a puzzle where every perfectly polished piece of chrome and every stitch of new upholstery brings the bigger picture into sharper, more beautiful focus. These restoration projects can be massive undertakings, sometimes spanning years, even decades. A barn find, a car left forgotten for ages, might arrive at a workshop as a shadow of its former self, a rusty shell with a tattered interior. But a dedicated restorer sees the potential beneath the decay. They'll meticulously disassemble the entire car, cataloging every nut and bolt. The frame might be sandblasted and powder-coated. The body panels are carefully repaired, straightened, and prepped for that deep, lustrous paint job that was a hallmark of Cadillac. The engine and transmission are rebuilt to purr just like they did on the showroom floor. The intricate electrical systems, especially in later models with their burgeoning technology, are painstakingly rewired. And the interior, oh, the interior. Recreating the opulence of an Eldorado's cabin is an art form. It means sourcing the right grain of leather, the correct pattern for the upholstery, and finding craftsmen who can replicate the complex stitching. It's about restoring the gleam to the brushed stainless steel and chrome accents that adorn the dashboard and door panels. When it's all done, the result isn't just a repaired car. It's a resurrected masterpiece, a tribute to the designers and engineers who first brought it to life. Beyond individual garages, the Eldorado's legacy is also proudly displayed in museums around the world. Places like the Henry Ford Museum or the Peterson Automotive Museum often feature pristine examples of the most significant Eldorado models. These exhibitions allow a wider audience to appreciate the car's design evolution and its place in cultural history. Seeing a 53 Eldorado next to a 67 and a 79 under the perfect lighting of a museum exhibit really highlights the dramatic shifts in automotive styling and American culture over the decades. It allows us to trace the journey from post-war exuberance to the sharp-edged modernism of the late 20th century. But perhaps the most dynamic and exciting part of this community is the car clubs and shows. The Cadillac and LaSalle Club, for example, is a global organization that brings thousands of owners and enthusiasts together. They host national meets, regional shows, and local cruise-ins. These events are the lifeblood of the community. They are where knowledge is shared, friendships are forged, and the cars are celebrated. Walking through a field of hundreds of Eldorados at a national meet is an awe-inspiring experience. You'll see every generation represented, from the very first models to the final 2002 collector's edition. At these shows, you hear the stories. You'll talk to an owner whose 1970 Eldorado was his father's, a car he grew up with and inherited. Another might tell you about a cross-country road trip in their 84 Biarritz, proving these cars are meant to be driven, not just admired. These gatherings are more than just car shows. They are family reunions centered around a shared love for a particular nameplate. They are a celebration of motion, of design, and of memory. The friendly competition for best in show trophies only serves to push owners to maintain their cars to the highest possible standard, preserving the fleet for future generations. The internet has also played a huge role in connecting this global community. Online forums, social media groups, and dedicated websites have become invaluable resources. An owner in Australia can get advice on a tricky repair from an expert in Michigan. A collector in Japan can find a rare part from a seller in Florida. These digital spaces allow for the instant sharing of photos, videos, technical diagrams, and historical documents. This constant exchange of information ensures that the collective knowledge of the Eldorado community is always growing and easily accessible, helping new owners and seasoned veterans alike keep their beloved cars on the road. This enduring passion ensures that the value of the Eldorado, both monetarily and culturally, continues to rise. While some models are more sought after than others, the 5.9 Biarritz convertible remains a holy grail for many. Every Eldorado has a story and a place in the hearts of enthusiasts. They are seen as blue-chip investments, but more importantly as priceless artifacts of a bygone era of American confidence and style. So, as we conclude our journey, we see that the end of production was not an ending at all. It was a transition. The Cadillac Eldorado has been passed from the hands of its creators into the loving care of its keepers. It lives on in the gleam of polished chrome at a weekend car show, in the satisfied smile of a driver on a Sunday cruise, and in the dedicated work of a restorer bringing a forgotten classic back to life. The spirit of the Eldorado, a spirit of luxury, innovation, and unapologetic style, is alive and well. It proves that a car can be so much more than a machine. It can be a legacy, a legend. And for those who love it, it is a timeless work of art. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey through the history of the Cadillac Eldorado. It's been a privilege to share these stories with you. If you've enjoyed this series, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future explorations into automotive history. We'll see you next time. Upbeat, sophisticated intro music fades into the background. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into automotive history. Today, we're exploring something truly special, the enduring legacy of the Cadillac Eldorado. This isn't just a trip down memory lane. It's about connecting the dots from a legendary nameplate to the gleaming Cadillacs you see on the road today. The Eldorado wasn't just a car. It was a statement, a rolling piece of art that defined American luxury for decades. And its spirit? Well, it's very much alive. Let's start by picturing the classic Eldorado. What comes to mind? For me, it's those dramatic, razor-sharp tail fins of the late 50s, the sheer length and presence of the 70s models, and that unapologetic V8 rumble. The Eldorado was Cadillac's playground for design innovation. It was where the brand took its biggest risks, and those risks paid off, creating icons that are still celebrated. It was the standard of the world, not just in engineering, but in style. The name itself, Eldorado, meaning the golden one, promised something extraordinary, a treasure on wheels. This car was a pioneer. Think about features that are common now. The '57 Eldorado Broom, for example, had a stainless steel roof, quad headlights, and even memory power seats. It was a technological showcase. This spirit of pushing boundaries is the first major piece of its legacy. It taught Cadillac that to be a true luxury leader, you can't just follow trends, you have to create them. You have to be bold, distinctive, and a little bit audacious. Now let's fast forward to the modern era. Look at the Cadillac Escalade. When the first Escalade hit the streets, it was a massive, chrome-laden, attention-grabbing machine. Sound familiar? The Escalade is, in many ways, the spiritual successor to the Eldorado's boldness. It carries that same unapologetic presence. It's not trying to be a subtle European SUV. It's proudly, distinctly American. That confidence, that command of the road, that is pure Eldorado DNA. It is the idea that a luxury vehicle should make a statement before you even open the door. The influence doesn't stop with size and presence. It's also in the details. The Eldorado was famous for its vertical taillights, a signature Cadillac design cue for generations. Look at the back of a modern CT5 or an Escalade. Those crisp, vertical LED light signatures are a direct evolution of the Eldorado's iconic design language. It's a visual thread connecting the past to the present, a nod to the heritage that made the brand great. It's Cadillac saying, we remember where we came from, and we're bringing that history into the future. But perhaps the most significant part of the Eldorado's legacy is the revival of American luxury styling. For a while, it seemed like American luxury brands were trying to emulate their German or Japanese counterparts, becoming more minimalist, more restrained. But recently, we've seen a resurgence of confidence in American design. Cadillac has been at the forefront of this, with its sharp creases, bold grilles, and expressive lighting. This return to a distinctly American aesthetic is a direct echo of the Eldorado era. The Eldorado taught Cadillac that its strength lies in being itself. It's not about copying others. It's about celebrating a unique heritage of glamour, innovation, and swagger. Think of the Cadillac Lyric or the Celestiq. These aren't just electric vehicles. They are rolling sculptures. The dramatic proportions, the intricate light shows they perform when you approach, that is the showmanship of the Eldorado, reimagined for the 21st century. The Celestiq, in particular, being a hand-built, ultra-exclusive flagship, is the modern equivalent of the original Eldorado Bruma, halo car that showcases the absolute best the brand can offer. The Eldorado's influence is also felt in the very concept of a personal luxury coupe. Before the Eldorado, luxury was often synonymous with large, formal sedans. The Eldorado popularized the idea that you could have all the comfort and prestige of a Cadillac in a more personal, stylish, two-door package. While the big coupe market has shrunk, the spirit of that personal luxury has simply transformed. Today it lives on in expressive sedans like the CT5V Blackwing, which offers supercar performance wrapped in a uniquely Cadillac design. It's luxury and style tailored for the driver. So, when you see a modern Cadillac, I want you to look closer. Don't just see a luxury car. See the ghost of the Eldorado's tailfin in the sharp crease of a fender. See its confident grille reflected in the bold face of an Escalade. Hear the echo of its V8 ambition in the stunning performance of a Blackwing. The Eldorado may no longer be in production, but its legacy is everywhere. It's in the vertical lights, the commanding presence, and the renewed confidence that defines Cadillac today. It is the golden thread that ties the brand's glorious past to its exciting future. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the Eldorado's incredible legacy. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like it, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which part of the Eldorado's legacy do you see most clearly in today's Cadillacs? Until next time, drive safe and stay passionate about cars. Welcome back to our journey through automotive history. Today, we're in Chapter 19, taking a special ride through time. This isn't just about a car, it's about an era. We're talking about the Cadillac Eldorado and how its incredible story mirrors the magnificent rise and poignant fall of America's automotive golden age. Picture this. It's the early 1950s. America is booming with post-war optimism. The economy is soaring, chrome is king, and the open road is a symbol of freedom and endless possibility. Into this world in 1953 rolls the first Eldorado. It wasn't just a car. It was a statement. A handcrafted, limited edition convertible that cost more than a house for many families. It was the absolute pinnacle of American luxury, a rolling testament to the nation's confidence and design prowess. With its panoramic windshield and dazzling array of gadgets, the Eldorado was a dream machine, embodying the glamour and extravagance of Hollywood itself. Throughout the 50s and 60s, the Eldorado was the trendsetter. Each new model seemed to push the boundaries of style and engineering. Think of the 1957 Eldorado Brune with its stainless steel roof and memory seats. Or the iconic 1959 model with its towering, rocket-like tailfins, the highest ever put on a production car. These weren't just design choices. They were cultural symbols. They screamed bigger is better and showcased an industry at the absolute zenith of its power and influence. The Eldorado was the car of presidents, rock stars, and business moguls. It was America on four wheels, bold, powerful, and unapologetically ambitious. This was the golden age. American automakers weren't just competing with each other. They were competing with the future. The Eldorado was a rolling laboratory of innovation, introducing features that would become standard decades later. From air suspension to automatic high beams, it was a showcase of what was possible when imagination had no budget. The rumble of its massive V8 engine was the soundtrack to the American dream. Owning an Eldorado meant you had arrived. It was more than a status symbol. It was a validation of success, a piece of art you could drive down the boulevard. But as the 60s gave way to the 70s, the world began to change, and the Eldorado changed with it. The first sign was in 1967, with a radical redesign. The Eldorado became a front-wheel drive personal luxury coupe. It was still huge, still powerful, but the shift was significant. It was a move towards a different kind of luxury, more personal, more refined, but perhaps a little less flamboyant than its predecessors. The tailfins were gone, replaced by sharp, creased lines that spoke to a new, more modern aesthetic. It was still an impressive machine, with a massive 500 cubic inch V8, the largest production engine of its time. For a moment, it seemed the golden age would last forever. Then the 1970s hit hard. The oil crisis of 1973 was a seismic shock to the American auto industry. Suddenly, bigger is better became a liability. Gas prices soared, and those gigantic gas-guzzling V8 South were no longer a point of pride but a source of pain at the pump. The era of excess was over. In its place came new government regulations for fuel economy and emissions. The party, it seemed, was winding down. The Eldorado's journey through this period is a perfect reflection of the industry's struggle. The car started to shrink. In 1979, the Eldorado was downsized significantly. The engines got smaller and less powerful, strangled by new emissions equipment. The once mighty V8 South were replaced by less inspiring options, including a notoriously troublesome diesel engine. The chrome gleam was replaced with vinyl tops and opera windows, trying to maintain an air of luxury, while the very foundation of that luxury, unbridled power and size, was eroding. It was a slow, painful decline. The Eldorado, once the undisputed king, now faced fierce competition from sleek, efficient, and well-built luxury cars from Europe and Japan. Brands like Mercedes-Benz and BMW offered a new kind of status, one based on engineering precision and performance rather than sheer size and chrome. The American giant, once invincible, was now on the defensive. By the 1980s and 90s, the Eldorado felt like a relic from a bygone era. There were attempts to modernize it, to recapture the old magic, but the automotive landscape had changed forever. The final generation, produced until 2002, was a capable and comfortable car, but it was a shadow of its former self. The name Eldorado, once synonymous with the ultimate dream, now felt nostalgic, a whisper from the past. When the last Eldorado rolled off the assembly line, it wasn't just the end of a model. It was the closing chapter of America's automotive golden age. Looking back, the story of the Eldorado is a powerful saga. It's the story of a nation's ambition, its unshakable confidence, and its spectacular creativity. It charts the peak of American industrial might and the challenging transition into a new, more complex global reality. From the rocket-fin dream ships of the 50s to the downsized coupes of the 80s, the Eldorado was there for it all, a chrome-plated mirror reflecting the times. It's a ride through history, a reminder of an age when cars were more than just transportation. They were works of art, symbols of freedom, and the very embodiment of the American dream. And for that, the Eldorado will forever hold a special place in the heart of automotive history. Thank you so much for joining me on this ride through time. It's a story that means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoyed it too. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. We'd love to have you along for the ride. See you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into automotive history. Today, we're reaching the final chapter in the epic story of a true American icon, the Cadillac Eldorado. Even though the last Eldorado rolled off the assembly line years ago, its story is far from over. Why? Because the Eldorado isn't just a car. It's a symbol that continues to live on. So what exactly does it symbolize? First and foremost, the Eldorado represents the pinnacle of American luxury. For decades, if you wanted to tell the world you had arrived, you did it from behind the wheel of an Eldorado. It was more than just transportation. It was a statement. With its plush interiors, groundbreaking features, and sheer, unapologetic size, the Eldorado was the benchmark for comfort and prestige. It embodied an era of optimism and abundance, a time when cars were rolling expressions of success. Think about those iconic fins from the '59 model. They weren't just design. They were art, confidence, and ambition sculpted in steel. But the Eldorado was never just about luxury for luxury's sake. It was also a rolling showcase of innovation. Cadillac used the Eldorado as a platform to introduce some of the most advanced technology of its time. From the first production front-wheel drive system in a luxury car with the 1967 model, to advanced climate control and sophisticated suspension systems, the Eldorado was always pushing the envelope. It was a car that looked to the future, constantly redefining what a personal luxury coupe could be. This spirit of innovation is a huge part of its enduring legacy, reminding us of a time when American automakers were fearless leaders in engineering and design. And that brings us to its most powerful role, a symbol of the American dream on wheels. The Eldorado captured the imagination of a nation. It was the car you dreamed of owning, the reward for hard work, the ultimate expression of personal freedom and achievement. It appeared in countless movies, songs, and TV shows, cementing its place in popular culture as the definitive car of success. Driving an Eldorado meant you were living the dream. It represented the idea that in America, anything was possible, and you could cruise down the highway in a land yacht of your own making. Even today, in a world of electric vehicles and minimalist design, the Eldorado's presence is undeniable. You see one at a car show, and it stops you in your tracks. The chrome gleams, the lines are bold, and you can't help but feel a sense of nostalgia and admiration. These cars are lovingly maintained by collectors and enthusiasts who understand their historical significance. They are rolling pieces of history, mobile museums that tell a story of a different time. They remind us of post-war prosperity, the jet age, and the sheer joy of driving a car with personality. The classic car market for Eldorados is a testament to this enduring appeal. Certain models, like the 59 convertible or the 67 coupe, are highly sought after, commanding impressive prices at auction. This isn't just about owning an old car. It's about owning a piece of the American story. These collectors are custodians of a legacy, ensuring that the spirit of the Eldorado is preserved for future generations to appreciate. They organize clubs, meetups, and cruises, creating a vibrant community centered around this legendary nameplate. So, what is the Eldorado's ultimate legacy? It's a complex tapestry woven from threads of luxury, groundbreaking technology, and cultural significance. It represents a time of boundless American confidence. It's a reminder that a car can be more than just a machine. It can be a rolling piece of art, a symbol of an era, and a tangible piece of a dream. It shows us that bold design and a commitment to excellence can create something truly timeless. Even as the automotive world moves forward, the lessons of the Eldorado remain relevant. It teaches us about the power of a strong brand identity and the importance of emotional connection. The Eldorado wasn't just sold on specs. It was sold on a feeling, a promise of a grander life. That's a powerful marketing lesson for any era. It stands as a high-water mark in automotive design, a benchmark against which other luxury cars are still, in some ways, measured. In the end, the production line may have stopped, but the Cadillac Eldorado never really went away. It lives on in the memories of those who owned one, in the passion of the collectors who preserve them, and in the cultural fabric of our nation. It remains an enduring, shining symbol of American luxury, fearless innovation, and the beautiful, audacious dream of hitting the open road in style. The legend is safe, cruising forever down the highways of history. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through the life of the Cadillac Eldorado. It's been a blast exploring the history of this amazing car. If you enjoyed this series, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into automotive history, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your favorite Eldorado memories in the comments below. Until next time, keep the passion alive.